Let us not forget, AJ, Askar Askarov would have been fighting for a title had he not missed weight in his last fight. So he basically did something to Joseph Benavidez that we've seen very few people do. The only other person who has really ragdolled Joseph Benavidez in a dangerous way like that is the current champion, Davison Figueiredo, Deuce de Guerra. So when it comes down to it, man, Askarov is 3-0-1 in the UFC, but he basically finished every fight prior to entering the big show, right? 11 finishes in his 14 wins. Kai France, on the other hand, this man is on a hot streak. 2 knockouts in a row, kind of saving his nickname, Don't Blink, because he's been a decision machine besides that. But he has a ton of experience, man. The big thing to me is he's been finished 5 times in his 9 losses, brother. So when he loses, he goes out with a bang. It's important to note that. However, you have a grappler who has some crispy striking but prefers to keep the ground game, smother you, and ride you out for 3 rounds versus Kai France, who is the definition of explosive. To me, he's a little ball of steel, you know what I mean? Where he's just kind of bouncing around, nonstop movement. Let's look at the fight against Rogerio Bontorin, man, where he was in a rough spot until he got the dub, right? You know what I mean? So Askar Askarov, out of sight, out of mind, AJ. I think that's the story here. Even though he's a minus 310 favorite, I think that he should be a minus 600 favorite in this fight because if he gets Kai France on the ground, I have a hard time seeing Kai France getting back up to be able to knock out Askarov. You have a southpaw versus an orthodox fighter, even though Askarov, I mean, he's listed as orthodox. I think he can go either way. When it comes to output, more output for Kai France, more takedowns for Askarov, brother. Grappler versus striker, classic matchup, but Askarov got some hands too. So what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Very much, Askarov has the ground game advantage. Car France, on paper, has a striking advantage, but Askarov has some hands, man. Very confident, calm, calculated, cool and composed, but hits very hard, knows when to hit, knows timing, can strike off the back foot, can wrestle. Askarov has a lot, and I think that the only reason he isn't a massive favorite right here is just because he hasn't performed in quite a while. Everybody remembers the Garbrandt knockout, man. It's so fresh in everyone's memory that everyone thinks, Don't Blink is the real deal. And as much as he is, Askarov is also the real deal. Excuse me. Askarov, man, he's one of those fighters, another one that is kind of flown under the radar because of lack of performance. But if this dude comes out and fights the way he has been, bro, it is going to be fireworks, man. Especially with a fighter that is willing to bring the pressure, bring the pace, bring the intensity that Cara France is going to. This is going to be fireworks, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And what's nice about this is we get to see how Askarov can finally perform. A lot of people, they've gone out of his memory, but his timing is nice, calm, has the ground game, has the striking, has all the intangibles to be champ. Like you said, struggled with the weight. So if we come in, we see a top-notch performing, race car of Askarov against an absolute blitz style like Cara France, man. This one's going to be a lot of fun. It could go early. It could go all the way into the late rounds if Askarov has his way. I don't know, man. This one, as much of a fan as I am City Kickboxing, it's hard to bet against Askarov.
It is very, very difficult to bet against Askar Askarov in this fight, man. I honestly think he should have been fighting for a championship like a long time ago. And I think that the reason why the reason why Davison Figueiredo got the rematch versus Brandon Figueiredo, where he won the title back and all that stuff, was one, because Pantoja was hurt and couldn't fight. And 2 is because Askar Askarov missed weight against Joseph Benavidez. So it's like, you got the win, but you missed weight. So it's like you kind of screwed yourself over in that one. So by default, Figueiredo gets the fight. And then, breaking news, if you don't know already, folks, it's reported that they're doing the 4th fight, Figueiredo versus Moreno again. So it's like, listen, at that, you got to call it at the end of that. We can't do 5 fights, right? 4 fights. And then Askar Askarov, you're... Alexandre Pantoja, if Kai France gets a win over Askarov, maybe one of these guys are going to be next up in line. So this could be a potential title eliminator fight on this hand. So I think Kai France is going to be game. I do think at plus 250, I could see throwing a little bit of money on Kai France and seeing an upset in this fight. But what we're doing is we're just looking at the past performances of Askarov and hoping that he's going to have that same performance. Because when he fought Joseph Benavidez, that was in March 6th of 2021. So it's been over a calendar year since we've seen the man fight recently. And he fought, twice in 2020, once in 2021, once in 2019, once in 2018, once in 2017. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been the most active, but that also means there aren't a lot of miles on Askarov. So hopefully we see a fun matchup. But when it comes down to it, my man, listen, I like Askar Askarov. I just find it hard to bet against the man. You said it earlier. Minus 310 is a little chalky, so we might be having to take the over and under or something, go on a prop, go on a decision or something like that. But at the end of the day, brother, the over and under for this fight appears to be 2.5 rounds. You going over or are you going under on this one? Excuse me.
I honestly think Car France has a big chance to win this fight here if he can get it done early.
Yeah.
I personally am going Askarov. I'm going the distance. I'm taking the over. But if this ends early, we can see a Car France win right here. But like I said, I'm going a little chalky, taking the over, taking Askarov. Just how I think it's going to get done. He's going to utilize that ground game, man.
Absolutely. And I think Askarov is the perfect fighter to deflate the hype of any fighter by just smothering them on the ground and not letting them showcase their skills, because that's all it takes is one trip, one takedown, and you're there for the rest of the match. So, I mean, listen, 3 rounds to a fight. Every round starts on the feet. We'll see what happens, but should be a fun one either way. Now,